we're going to we're getting a bit more obscure on the podcast. We're actually now going to deliberate on the I Don't Mind Waiting Award for Best Loading Screen. So far, we've put forward the 3DS data transfer screen. Sounds thrilling. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, the Ouya update screen, the Rise Son of Rome, and I actually changed my vote, so I've decided to go with the GTA 5 loading screen, which I think Darcy put forward. So I can tell that we're all going to agree on this one, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Far Cry 3 Blood
I
Dragon.
didn't actually
by
buy
mine.
it.
Okay, tell us about
it. Go ahead.
Okay, so Far Cry 3 was a pretty incredible game from last year. Blood Dragon was the standalone expansion that was released this year by sort of a skunkworks team within Ubisoft. The story behind the development goes that they were approached by Ubisoft and told, you need to create DLC for this game. However, you've got 6 months, make whatever you want. Doesn't matter what it is, just make it. And so they made
That
this.
sounds so awesome.
That's great. I had no idea.
Yeah, this standalone 80s action movie inspired game where it's sort of Far Cry 3. It keeps the core mechanics and wraps it in this neon-laced, smoke-filled laser fighting arena with dragons and bases and lasers, and it's fun. It's as fun as the joke is to you, but perhaps the most enjoyable part of it is that everything down to the loading screens custom built to be reminiscent of that old 80s action style. All the loading screens in the game are like an old VCR tracking logo. It says, down the bottom it says tracking, and it's got a bar going backwards and forwards, and it's like when you used to fast forward the VCR through a really well-worn tape, and that happens every time the game loads up, and it's beautiful, but and even at the very start of the game, they've got a very 80s-inspired Ubisoft logo that comes up.
Awesome.
It's just... It sticks to the theme of the game really well. I love it.
Perfect.
Sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, that's a good one. Who's next? Who wants to talk about the 3DS data
That was
transfer
me.
screen?
So yeah. So I picked up when I picked up Pokemon, I also got the Pokemon XL 3DS, which meant I had to transfer my original 3DS, all my saves, to my new one, and I discovered, to my delight, that all of my save data gets transferred in tiny little portions by about 3 or 4 different Pikmin. And it's
Oh, no.
a really hidden feature that not many people would use, and it is amazing. It's like, okay, you want your Monster Hunter transferred, and it's a 2 gig file. Right, it's a huge file, and it's going to take 10 minutes to transfer or whatever. So the little Pikmin will come up, pick up one little piece, move it across to 25%, and then they'll go back, and they'll pick up the next piece, and move it across, and everything will get transferred to your new console. It was just a really adorable way of transferring the data usually when you're transferring something, it's just, have a progress bar, and have it fill up with a bunch of green lines. Oh, you're done, thanks.
God, isn't that
Yeah.
just the Nintendo
Yeah.
way? Like, for no reason, there's this weird amount of polish poured into this thing that you're only going to see if you're the hardest of hardcore fan, but... it's hard to stay angry at you, Nintendo.
It sure
Yeah.
is.
Okay, let's move on to Brennan. Tell us about the Ouya update screen. Does it have Pikmin?
No, it's not as cool
award
as
lost.
3DS on the slightest. Yep. But yeah, pretty much instead of saying loading this, downloading that, or whatever, it'll say like herding cats. Quick, we must perform a quirker fleek. Seriously, like what the fuck is a quirker fleek? I still don't know what that is. And then
I don't want to Google it in case it's a sex thing.
No, I don't want to
It's
Google it.
always a sex thing. Everything is a sex thing.
And then it starts making like fancy, like funny emoticons, and then it's like, oh no, seriously, we're actually downloading something. No, maybe not. No, let's make some more emoticons or whatnot. Of all the update screens that I've paid attention to, this stands out only the slightest.
According to Urban Dictionary, a quirkafleeg is the obscure worship of dead furry animals.
Yeah, that
Sweet.
sure sounds like an Ouya to me.
Oh, burn! Oh,
Damn.
Call of the night.
pour the water on the wound. God damn. Okay, well, having said that, Chris, tell us about Rise, Son of Rome. What's so great about the loading screens?
Just pretty. That's honestly it.
move
I
on.
just thought they were gorgeous loading screens. I mean, for me, it was a toss-up between that and Final Fantasies.
I thought you were going to say
Yeah,
that.
and Final Fantasies were gorgeous, but Rise is just, I don't know. I have a stupid obsession with Romans, and it kind of piqued my interest.
Fair enough.
Cool.
Well, okay, whatever works. Darcy, run us through the GTA 5 loading screens.
Well, apart from the artwork, which I always liked about GTA, there's a particular music. I think it's the same song every time. It's that sort of almost the first Mass Effect sort of style soundtrack, that sort of synthy sci-fi. Not quite sci-fi, but it's that same sort of feeling that sort of builds
Very
and builds
ambient.
and builds. And I remember when, because I had on PS3, so there's that installing. When you first play it, you have to install
Yes,
it, and just
that's
sitting
right,
there,
yeah.
like, I had anticipated this game for quite some time. There's a lot of hype behind it. The reviews were amazing, and I'm sitting there with this loading screen and this music sort of building. I'm like, this song is really unique. It's not what I was expecting, and it's kind of like I had a feeling it was going to stick with me, and it has. I think it will. I'll always remember that song as being GTA 5.
Are you glad that they didn't put some sort of dubstep, Skrillex
Oh, of course,
mix
yeah,
on the top of that?
That would have been horrible.
Damn it, we should have done Song of the Year,
Yeah.
so I could have nominated the dubstep gun.
Saints Row 4. Saints Row 4.
Actually, talking
I
about
don't know,
GTA just
the
very
best-
quickly, one of the things I really enjoyed about that was the way they hid the loading screens behind like the Google Earth satellite view zoom out when you change between characters. I thought that was really well handled,
true.
especially when you'd zoom in and they're just doing something in the world. I mean, it's one of a million things that game does quite well, but it was just a really nice way of hiding the loading screens a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a technical marvel, and they hide the strings really well. And like Darcy, I really enjoyed the loading screens, and I thought I really enjoyed seeing a different character art card that comes up at different times, which was really cool. So yeah, my vote is for that one as well. So does that win?
I didn't play
that how it
GTA 5.
works?
I don't play GTA 5 as... Yeah.
Oh, you're excluded.
So, oh, snap. Yeah, if you guys are fine with that, then I'm fine with that as well. It sounds like a great game.
I want to vote for the Pikmin, but you could be
No,
lying.
it's
to me,
true.
I don't know.
Don't worry, I've quickly YouTubed it in the meantime and just sat here squeeing with glee with my microphone on mute. So,
Remarkably restrained, and I
That's okay.
really appreciate that. So, GTA 5?
Yeah.
yeah, whatever.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I'm just glad I
Sure.
can talk about Far Cry.
Yes.
Okay, we're down to our final award categories, and the next award is the Cannot Unsee Award for the most memorable moment in a video game for 2013. Our nominees are, we've got 2 nominations for the opening prologue of The Last of Us. Sure, I'm talking about that game a lot tonight. Saints Row 4, He Lives.
Someone...
Bioshock Infinite's Endgame. And GTA 5. There are 2 nominations, but they're slightly different. Chris has gone for the online shenanigans, and I've gone for Jimmy drugging Michael. So, same universe, different reasons. So, who would like to begin? Let's go straight to Bioshock Infinite. Darcy, do you want to tell us about that?
Sorry, lost my button.
That's what she
Yeah,
said.
no, well, it's. I mean, everyone who's played that game knows what I'm talking about. It's just that final sequence. I think from the songbird takes
Yep.
Elizabeth, and you go
Yep.
across the bridge.
Yep.
And then suddenly you're in like many years later, and you're like, "What the hell's going on?" And
Yeah.
you go through the orphanage or whatever it was, and then you see old Elizabeth, and then all the lighthouses and all that. Get all those reveals like one after the other, bang, 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 and then at the ending, of course, it's just blew me away.
There's a line in that ending. There's always a lighthouse, a man, a city. That when we were talking before about that being the final piece of the puzzle in that game, that cemented that from being something that I was menially interested in to just blowing me away. Like, what an incredible way to wrap that game up.
Yeah.
It was a gorgeous game.
Yeah, it is. It is a really gorgeous game. And it has a really good ending as well. Let's move on to Saints Row 4. Nat, do you want to tell us about He Lives?
Okay, so
It's pretty good.
I really love Saints Row. I think Saints Row the Third is one of the best games that's come out this generation. I also really love They Live, a terrible Rowdy Roddy Piper starring movie about kind of aliens from John Carpenter from the 80s. I think it's John Carpenter. I'm fairly sure. Anyway, it's fantastic. Who cares? In this game, alongside Rowdy Roddy Piper in that fantastic, terrible movie, stars Keith David, who also stars in this game, and Keith David is so good. Keith David as Keith David in this game.
Keith David, just on the John Carpenter thing, he was in the thing.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. Mm.
So, so one of the core conceits of Saints Row 4 is you're kind of reliving characters' worst moments in a virtual world to save them and make them more powerful and blah blah blah. The less said about it, the better. Keith David's one specifically is recreating the entire movie of They Live alongside Rowdy Roddy Piper. You start off going through some back streets with some strange bagpipe music playing for no reason, and there's Rowdy Roddy Piper in full Rowdy Roddy Piper wrestling attire, beating the piss out of Keith David like they do in the movie for about 10 minutes, and then you just run alongside Roddy Piper towards the ending of the film. You get to the very end and you're beating up bad guys and stuff like you normally do in your crazed superpowers Wade. But then you turn back around and you look at Rowdy Roddy Piper and he's doing wrestling moves against guys. He's giving them like leg drops and lariats and a very, very small back suplex. Like, it's just the culmination of a lot of dumb things I like a lot. Bad horror movies, bad wrestling, and fantastic, fantastic video games. It's just, I loved it.
Wonderful.
Saints Row 4,
Wonderful.
Saints Row 4 is just full of those references as well. You know, and it's one of those games where if you take it seriously, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It's meant to be stupid, and it turns the stupidity up to 11. And like that scene is just so reference heavy for so many people.
That would make sense. That makes sense to like 2% of the audience. It just so happens that I am in that exact middle point.
You are the 2%.
Well, switching from super silly to super serious, let's talk about The Last of
Super
Us.
ethereal.
And I think you guys were talking about the prologue particularly, weren't you? Brennan and Tom?
You want to?
Yeah, well-
you do it.
Alright, yeah, so the prologue of The Last of Us, pretty much you got Joel and his daughter Sarah. They're escaping the wave of infected
giraffes?
the giraffes. The
Zombie
infected,
giraffes?
coming. They're escaping the hordes of infected that are pretty much coming upon them. They're making their way down a ravine or a creek or whatever, and then was it an army soldier, whatever, comes across them, and he's pretty much instructed to kill both of them or shoot them dead, pretty much. Joel escapes or manages to not get hit. Sarah does. And pretty much Joel is comforting Sarah in her final moments, telling her that everything's alright. And while she's sort of like crying and everything's all, she's complaining how it's dying is all painful and that, she pretty much dies. And for only very few games that have really hits you in the feels.
I think the best part about it though is right at the start of the game, you start the game as playing as Sarah. So you walk around and you're trying to find Joel, and you learn about how she's kind of scared of the dark and she's scared of different things walking through an empty house, and all of a sudden this crazy neighbor busts through the glass and the game starts, basically. Now, it's not like there's a slow crawl up to it or a slow burn, like in David's scene. It's straight away, you're at the start of the infection, here's the topic or the feeling for the entire game, and getting through that, I've got to protect Sarah, blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't matter how hard you try, nothing is going to stop that bullet hitting her. And it's just one of those moments where you lose...
inevitable.
Yeah, and you lose all hope, and then you're 20 years in the future.
Nothing quite sets the tone of dread that game incorporates quite like that scene. Like, what? Just a very It's a kick in the guts when you play it, that's for sure.
And it's the first 5
I
minutes,
know.
too. It's not like even halfway through, it's just, here's your daughter, she's dead. What?
Dick
It's-
move.
Yeah.
Save your game. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Really depressing, that one.
As much as I'd love to give it to Saints Row 4 of the awesome scenes of hilarity and stupidity, I think The Last of Us kind of takes that, unfortunately.
Well, let's move on to Grand Theft Auto 5.
Back to Super Silly again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Chris, go ahead.
The whole game's freaking hilarious. Let's not beat around the bush. But for me, the reason I chose like online shenanigans specifically is the amount of stupid shit I have done in that game with my brother or my friends is beyond a joke. And they're memorable because they're freaking memorable. Like, last week, as an example, we decided to cause God knows how many car pile up on the middle of the road. Then we all stood together taking selfies whilst my friend flew a freaking jet into the pile of cars. Which we have on footage and video recorded. So it's... That whole thing is you can just do some stupid... What else comes? My God, if any of you have played it and you've played the Top Fun multiplayer game type, where it's people on getting away from people in jets. If you're smart and you don't tell the other people, if you're running away, you can jump back into that naval base and steal a jet and chase after them. So, watching that go down is just... It's great. The whole... It's memorable, definitely.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with GTA Online. It's a lot more fun with your friends.
Oh,
I think.
God, yeah.
I think if you're just to play it by yourself, I'm not sure how much.
I
fun you
really
can
think your
get out of
friends
it.
are necessary to play that game.
Yep.
Online, specifically, so.
Well, I put my vote to the when Jimmy. It's a particular point in the story where Jimmy actually drugs Michael, and he goes on a rather weird trip where he imagines that he has been abducted by aliens, has been probed, and the thing that caps it off for me or makes it memorable is you skydive, and we talked about this song already, where the flight facilities kind of remix is playing over the top, and you're just descending towards Los Santos. There's no rhyme or reason, but for whatever reason, it's quite hypnotic, and it's just enjoyable.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a great
yeah.
song. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it goes a lot to talking about his character and where he's at that particular point. His life is literally it's hurtling towards the ground, and just sort of drug fueled and drug addled and everything. His life's out of control, and yeah, thanks to his son, it's memorable. I remember that for going forward.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, we've got another tiebreaker. We've got Last of Us and we've got Grand Theft Auto 5. So, someone wants to break that.
I have
deadlock.
not played Last of Us, and I really like that particular scene you were just talking about in GTA 5, so I'll vote for GTA 5.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Let me make that a little bit easier then. I really love that scene in Saints Row 4, but I think that the first scene in The Last of Us is very effective.
You made it so much better.
Son of a bitch!
Oh, God. Why do we have 6 people on this podcast?
Yeah, we really do need a tiebreaker. Yeah, look, I think GTA is a game full of great moments. I think the first scene in The Last of Us could well be the pinnacle moment in any game. Again, Saints Row, fantastic, but it speaks to me. GTA is, it's full of great, wonderful things. I'll never forget loading back into Trevor just to find him shitting behind a dumpster, because that's what he do. Or Scooter Buddy for the 100th time tonight. But that first scene in The Last of Us, just what a punch in the guts that is.
Well, it's another tie, and it's going to The Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto 5. Pretty good company, really. So,
Yay!
And they all rejoiced.
Well, the final award for tonight, I think, is probably the most fun, which is the Golden Turd Award for Worst Game of the Year. And I think the category really speaks for itself.
The best game, right?
Our, no-
Yep.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
our nominees are, 3 of us put forward Aliens Colonial Marines. We've got Brothers and Adventure Time, Explore the Dungeon, because I don't know. I'm going to start with that one. Chris, I am very surprised and disappointed to hear that an Adventure Time game sucks.
You're gonna hate me. I didn't even play it, and the reason I nominated it is because I actually despise Adventure Time.
Oh, wow.
Nah.
Burn the heretic.
There's something to me
possible?
about. I watched it once, and unless I was high, I'm pretty sure I could never enjoy it. It just was silly for the sake of being silly, but I don't get it. I'm sorry.
Mathematical.
I get it. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
Ah, God.
Oh, yeah.
Well, after that surprising revelation, let's move on to Brothers.
Yeah, look, I wanted to differentiate thing a little bit because, let's be perfectly honest, Aliens Colonial Marines is beyond the worst game of this year. It is a stinking turd. But I thought to add a little bit of variety to the nominations process, I'd put forward Brothers. Brothers was a game that it seemed like the critical darling of the internet for a little bit of time there. However, unlike Gone Home, which turned out to be one of my favourite experiences of the year, it turned out to be one of the most frustrating and annoying experiences of the year. So, for those of you who aren't aware, Brothers has a fairly unique control scheme to it. It actually uses 4 very distinct buttons on a regular gamepad. It uses both sticks and both triggers. That's it. Using that, you control 2 brothers, 1 on each stick, and their interactions with the world are handled via the 2 shoulder buttons. And so it's a kind of simple, puzzly adventure game as you try and lead both of those guys through the world. Where it becomes unglued is that as you're trying to steer 2 separate things across the screen with 2 different sticks, it often becomes confusing. You're using the wrong stick to try and move the wrong character, and it never clicked with me. It never got to the point where it was comfortable to be played. I feel like a game where I'm actively angry at the screen that I'm playing it on is usually a bad game, and that is Brothers in a nutshell for me. It's just not anything worth playing, worth experiencing. Watch it on YouTube, read a Wikipedia summary, I don't care. Just don't touch that miserable simpering control scheme and try and have fun with it.
Should release it on the Ouya.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, a little bit of controller latency. That's what it was missing.
Don't forget a microtransaction. It's got a monetize.
Oh yeah. Well,
Oh, God.
Alright, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Who wants to take point, as it were, on Aliens Colonial
Did
Marines?
anyone else finish it? Because I did.
Oh,
I did.
oh, really? Wow.
why?
Why?
So I got it for free from Game Planet.
Do you hate yourself?
Well, a little, but anyway. That's beside the point. We had the great idea to play through it because, yes, the new Aliens game. So we played it through this co-op with 4 mates and a bunch of alcohol, and that's how we got through it because it was so bad.
There is literally everything in the world you could be doing besides that. You could watch paint dry. You could punch each other. You could just anything. You could go to sleep.
Plant a tree.
Like anything would be more fun.
Yep. I don't know why we did it. We just did. We finished the campaign and we never touched it again.
Well, alcohol was involved. So
Yes,
that's
yes,
what
we
it was.
passed the time a little bit quicker.
Mm.
Just
Darcy?
shit talking over Xbox.
Darcy, Brendan, do you have any comments about Marines?
Yeah, well, like, the fact that they showed off one thing at E3, like the original reveal trailer, and then put,
Oh my god.
yeah, then put out a game that looks completely different is just beyond insulting for anyone who was willing to pay, a top dollar for what was meant to be a AAA release. That's just not right in any way whatsoever.
Look, let's not beat around the bush. The internet is quick to jump to conclusions and make ridiculous statements. But when that thing got taken, a motion was put forward in the US court that was misleading and deceptive advertising, they were completely well on point and should have been recompensated because that was nothing like what they showed that game to be.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that really pissed me off about Aliens Colonial Marines was that it came from a developer like Gearbox. I mean,
Well, it didn't really. It was
well,
their B team, and they shipped off the animation to somewhere else, and then they got the coding done by a different company, and then they got it all shipped back to 2K or Gearbox, sorry. And then okay, here you go, we did this. What
I mean,
is
okay,
this?
you know, fans of Borderlands 2,
Me.
people who are into, you know, defending Gearbox, I think they had responsibility about it, and it you know, you just really want to have faith that people make great games for the sake, like, people don't go out of their way to make a shit game, but here it just seems like nobody cared, nobody was taking responsibility for it, and a potentially great game got sort of wasted. And, you know, Aliens, oh my god, science fiction movie is just, like, amazing, and they just did this with it. Just unacceptable. But there you go. That's my 2 cents. Okay, well, there you have it. We've gone through 12 award categories. We've all deliberated and decided for your listening pleasure. To recap, the Progress Bar random awards for 2013 are the following. The Eargasm Best Soundtrack and Sound Design Award goes to The Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds. I think a real dark horse in that particular category. The OMG What WTF BBQ Award, biggest surprise, 2013.
Nearly made it.
Almost.
Yeah, almost. Goes to, I think it was a tie, wasn't it? Between Path of Exile and Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. So congratulations. The Underachiever Award, the most disappointing game, and actually, well, game thing, was the Ouya.
So instead of cheers, it's just tuts. It's just. Yeah.
The next award, the Broken Controller Award for most frustrating gameplay, goes to Final Fantasy XIV on the PS3 for having really bad.
All my hate.
The John Law's Golden Microphone Award for best voice acting goes to Ashley Johnson for portraying Ellie in The Last of Us. Well deserved.
Yay!
The Kim Jong-il Memorial. I just keep cracking up every time I read that stupid award. The Kim Jong-il Memorial Award for Best Villain for 2013 was The Last of Us, David, and was played by Nolan North. So congratulations. The Breakfast Club 2 Award for Most Unnecessary Sequel. Congratulations, Dead Island Riptide.
Well deserved, yeah.
The Igon Dunn made the award. Developer of the Year goes to Naughty Dog, 2013. The Error 37 Award for Best Online Catastrophe has to go to SimCity. The I Don't Mind Waiting Award for Best Loading Screen goes to GTA 5. The Cannot Unsee Award for Most Memorable Moment goes to The Last of Us for its prologue. And Grand Theft Auto 5.
No, it doesn't.
So it was actually a tie. The Golden Turd Award for the worst game of the year goes to Aliens Colonial Marines. So, congratulations, all the winners. Well deserved.
Well done.
Well done.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Tom, Brandon, Chris, Nat, and Darcy for participating tonight. Thank you, lads.
Not a problem.
No worries.
Now it's over to you, dear listener. Have your say on our awards by visiting us on Facebook, facebook.com/progressbarau, or come and find us on Twitter at progressbarau. Do you agree or disagree with our choices? Special thanks to Chris Edwards for hosting our podcast on his Mumble server. Thank you, sir.
Not a problemo.
And if you stick around, we'll be bringing you another special podcast, the Progress Bar team's top 10 lists for 2013. We'll see you there.